deportation showdown now over a wrongfully deported man continues. And what I want to get to is the Department of Justice now appealing an order from a judge that required the administration to facilitate, that Supreme Court ruling upheld it as well, the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He is the man who's living in Maryland, who the administration admits it mistakenly deported to El Salvador. The Department of Justice is releasing what they call evidence, and they claim it ties Abrego Garcia to the criminal gang MS-13, allegations his family denies. All this comes as the Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen, a Democrat, is just moments away from holding a press conference. He was in El Salvador himself yesterday as he pushed for Abrego Garcia's release from a notorious mega prison in El Salvador, considered by many human rights activists around the world to be a prison where torture occurs. Meanwhile, President Trump was just asked if he plans on abiding by the Supreme Court order that he facilitate the release of Abrego Garcia to the United States. Let's listen.
Will you take steps to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the United States and put him in front of a judge?
Well, I'm not involved in it. I'm going to respond by saying you'll have to speak to the lawyers, the DOJ. I've heard many things about him, and we'll have to find out what the truth is. Did by millions of people, many millions of people during the Biden administration. They say 21 million. And a big percentage of those are criminals, serious criminals. I'm not saying just criminal because they came into the border illegally. I'm saying they're criminals at the highest level, murderers. Many of those people murdered more than one person, and they're on the loose. And I was elected to get rid of those criminals, to get them out of our country, or to put them away, but to get them out of our country and take that authority away from our president.
All right, joining us now, senior White House correspondent Selena Wang and senior reporter Catherine Faulders and immigration law expert Frank Symphorien Saavedra as well. Selena, first to you. The president right there saying he's not involved. Well, he has a theory of the unitary presidency, right, which is that all things flow through the president, and the Supreme Court directed its order to him and to the administration. But it doesn't sound like there's any chance he's going to start working to facilitate Abrego Garcia's return to the United States, which is what he was ordered to do.
And well, Terry, President Trump had earlier said that when it comes to the case of Abrego Garcia, that it's up to the government of El Salvador to bring him back. That is despite the Trump administration paying El Salvador $6 million to hold the migrants at that notorious prison. Now, Senator Chris Van Hollen, as you mentioned, he was in El Salvador. He met with the vice president of the country, and he says that he asked the vice president why they are holding Abrego Garcia, asking why they're keeping him. And this was his response. He said that the vice president said essentially that the Trump administration is paying the government with taxpayer money to keep that person here despite the court orders. We have seen that the White House is standing by their decisions, in fact, even doubling down. The president has also recently said that he would send more deportees to that notorious prison in El Salvador if they had the space to do it.
Thank you, Selena. So, Frank, do you think the administration's new evidence, which they have been releasing, a police report indicating that there was an informant who believed that Abrego Garcia was a member of MS-13, as well as they're going into the marital troubles that he and his wife have had in the past, do you think this is going to help them essentially decline to follow the Supreme Court's order?
Absolutely not. I mean, it's irrelevant, okay? The court consider that. And the reality of this is, what is the concern with bringing him back and let the courts evaluate the evidence that they're presenting? You know, that's how the process is supposed to work. The court, the president and the Department of Homeland Security doesn't just get to decide that outright. And in regards to the unitarian executive idea, I mean, that's not what the Constitution says. There's 3 co-equal branches of government, and the courts decide what the law says.
All right. Thank you very much. Catherine, to you, the judge in the other deportation case, the one under the Enemy Aliens Act, argues that the administration's, quote, willful disobedience of judicial orders, mockery of the Constitution. Constitution itself, quote unquote, quoting the great Chief Justice John Marshall in the beginning of our republic. So this is a contempt investigation that has now been launched by Judge Boasberg, who's overseeing this case in Washington. How's this going to play out?
Yeah, that's a great question, Terry, and I know you know so much of this. It feels like we're in unprecedented legal territory here. So the judge, of course, said that there is probable cause to hold administration officials in contempt. He gave them a week to say whether or not they are going to comply with his original order, and we'll see what the administration says about that. We already have an indication because they are at least noticed an appeal in this case. So how will this play out down the road? We know the judge has said he could call people in to take the witness stand. There could be depositions. He will call for document production, and then if the Department of Justice declines to prosecute this case, then he would appoint a special prosecutor to do that. Again, how this all plays out and what mechanisms there are to enforce a potentially holding them in contempt is a bit unclear at this point. But I know, at least from behind the scenes, talking to sources close to this, that they are in a bit of a legal pickle here. They don't really know exactly what to do next except for appeal and see what the higher courts say.
They have appealed the case. Lawyers appearing before judges are required to obey their orders, or they can be held in contempt. Catherine, Selena, Frank, thanks very much.